Hello everybody, XLKillerX here, and welcome to the final video of our Shadowlands pre-patch changes. This is the final class looking at warriors. So we'll start off with the general changes affecting all classes, then arms, fury, and protection. Times for each are on the screen now, so let's get into it. Okay, so the general changes for warriors are as follows. Whirlwind is capped at 5 targets. All warriors will now have the following abilities with a few new ones. The first new ability is Shattering Throw, which will throw your weapon at an enemy causing physical damage, ignoring armor, and removing any magical immunities, dealing 500%, deal up to 500% increased damage to absorb shields. Insane. New ability Intervene, which will run at high speed towards an ally, intercepting all melee and range attacks against them for 6 seconds, while they remain within 10 yards, so that's more of a tanky ability. Slam, which will hit your opponent for physical damage. Shield Block, which will raise your shield, deflecting all melee attacks against you for 6 seconds. Hamstring, which reduces movement speed by 50% for 15 seconds. Whirlwind, which will hit up to 5 enemies around you for physical damage. Spell Reflection, with no longer a PvP talent, will raise your weapon, reflecting spells on you and reducing magical damage you take by 20%, lasts 5 seconds or until a spell is reflected. Ignore Pain will ignore 50% of the damage taken, up to an amount of 2 times the total damage taken. Shield Slam slams the target with your shield, causing that physical damage. And one new PvP talent, which is Overwatch, which replaces Spell Reflection. When you intervene an ally, they gain Spell Reflection for 5 seconds or until a spell is reflected. Okay, now arms. Starting off with a new ability, Piercing Howl, which will snare all enemies within 12 yards, reducing their movement speed by 70% for 8 seconds. Mastery Deep Wounds has been redesigned, so Mortal Strike, Cleave, Ravager, Colossal Smash, Warbreaker and Bladestorm inflict deep wounds, dealing bleed damage over 12 seconds and increasing damage the enemy takes by 9%. Sweeping Strike now has a 0.75 second global cooldown instead of 1.5. Bladestorm capped at 8 targets to go along with everything else. And the following talents have seen adjustments. Fervor of Battle no longer increases damage of Whirlwind. Rend now has a 15 second duration instead of 12. Additionally, it increases the target's critical damage taken from the casting warrior's abilities by 10%. Collateral Damage has been redesigned, so when Sweeping Strike ends, your next Whirlwind deals 25% increased damage for each ability used during Sweeping Strikes that damage the second target. Cleave has been redesigned, so it replaces Sweeping Strike, striking up to 5 enemies in front of you with physical damage, inflicting deep wounds. Cleave will consume your overpower effect to deal increased damage. Deadly Calm has been redesigned to reduce the rage cost of your next 4 abilities by 100%, and also has the passive ability of increasing your max rage by 30%. Dreadnought has been redesigned, so Overpower has 2 charges and causes a seismic wave, dealing damage up to 5 enemies in a 10-yard line. Ravager now has a 45 second cooldown instead of a minute, duration increased to 12 seconds instead of 7, periodic damage increased to 2 seconds instead of 1, and now chases nearby enemies in combat. Additionally, Ravager is capped at 8 targets. Impending Victory Healing increased to 30% instead of 20, and Avatar no longer has a global cooldown. Now looking at Fury Warriors, you start off with a new ability, Single-Minded Fury, which is a passive. While you're wielding a pair of one-handed weapons, your damage done is increased by 12% and movement speed by 5. Bloodthirst now restores 3% health instead of 5. Rampage now costs 80 rage instead of 85. Recklessness now instantly generates 40 rage. Piercing Howl no longer costs rage, has a 30 second cooldown, was 0, has a 12 yard radius, was 15, reduces enemies' movement speed by 70%, was 50, and has an 8 second duration, was 15. Recklessness no longer has a global cooldown. Bladestorm is now capped at 8 targets to go along with everybody else. And then the following talents have seen adjustments with a few new ones. First new one being Frenzy, which replaces Inner Rage. Rampage increases your haste by 3% for 12 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. The effect will reset if Rampage is used on a different primary target. Another new talent, Onslaught, replacing Furious Slash. Attacks the target with physical damage, requires you to be enraged, and will generate 15 rage. Cruelty, while enraged, Raging Blow deals 20% more damage and has a 30% chance to instantly reset its cooldown. The final new talent is Sieve, which replaces Carnage. Bloodthirst generates 2 more rage or 4 more rage when it critically strikes your primary target. Fresh meat no longer increases the healing of Bloodthirst. Now fresh meat causes Bloodthirst to always enrage you the first time you strike the target with Bloodthirst. Massacre now has the additional effect of reducing the cooldown of execute by 1.5 seconds. Dragon Roar now has a 30-second cooldown, was 35. No longer reduces enemy movement speed and critically strikes for 3 times normal damage. Frothing Berserk has been redesigned so that Rampage has a 20% chance to immediately refund 40 rage. Meat Cleaver has been redesigned so Whirlwind deals 30% more damage and now affects your next 4 single target melee attacks instead of 2. Reckless Abandon has been redesigned so that Recklessness generates 50 rage and greatly empowers Bloodthirst and Raging Blow. Impending Victory heals 30% instead of 20, and Endless Rage has been removed and replaced with Sudden Death on the Talon Row. Okay, now we look at Protection Warrior. Revenge now deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets, no longer has a cooldown, costs 20 rage, was 30, and replaces Slam when learned. Your successful dodges and parries now have a chance to make Revenge cost no rage, instead of being guaranteed. Avatar no longer has a global cooldown. Intercept has been removed, can't use it anymore. Thunderclap now deals reduced damage to secondary targets. Then we move on to talents which have been adjusted, and a few new talents as well. First new talent is War Machine, which will make your auto attacks generate 20% more rage. Kill an enemy instantly grants 10 rage, and increase your movement speed by 30% for 8 seconds. Double Time replaces Safeguard, increases the maximum number of charges on charge by 1, and reduces its cooldown by 3 seconds. Moving on to changes. Dragon Roar now has a 30-second cooldown instead of 35. The longer reduces movement speed and critically strikes for 3 times normal amount, and generates 20 rage. Ravager now has a 45-second cooldown instead of a minute. Duration increased to 12 seconds, was 7. Periodic damage increased to 2 seconds instead of 1. Generates 10 rage each time it deals damage, and now chases enemies around in combat. Additionally, Ravager is capped at 8 targets. Best Serve Cold has been redesigned so that Revenge deals 20% more damage, or 50% more damage when you successfully dodge or parry an attack, and have made it cost no rage. Menace has been redesigned so Intimidating Shout will knock back all nearby enemies except your primary target, causing them all to counter for 15 seconds instead of fling. Really useful in a situation when there's a lot of mobs on you. Punish damage reduction effect can now overlap and has a maximum of 5 stacks. Impending Victory heals you to 30% instead of 20 like the others. Bolster now grants the shield block effect for the duration of Last Stand, was increased block chance to 100%. Indomitable now has an additional effect of every 10 rage you spend heals you for 1% of your health. Never Surrender now causes Ignore Pain to prevent 40% to 100% based on missing health, was 0 to 100. Into the Fray now grants 2% hast for each enemy or ally within 10 yards. Booming Voice damage done bonus increased at 20%, was 15. Heavy Repercussions now causes Shield Slam to generate 3 additional rage, as no longer increases the damage of Shield Slam during Shield Block. Anger Management no longer reduces the cooldown of Demoralizing Shout or Last Stand. Crackling Thunder now has an additional effect of increasing Thunderclap movement speed reduction by an additional 10%. Vengeance has been removed from the game, can't use it anymore. We have a few PvP changes, the first one being a new talent called Rebound, which will reflect spells causing to deal 33% extra damage back at the attacker, and Mess Spell Reflection has been removed from the game. Okay, so if you enjoyed the video and of course the series, don't forget to punch the like button, leave a comment down below, of course subscribe if you're new to the channel. Remember to follow me on Twitter, link down below as always. And last thing, of course, I've been XDoctorX, and I shall see you in the next World of Warcraft video. And again, thanks a lot for watching, hope you enjoyed.